Hello. So another week, and the last couple of weeks we've read whole chapters on this Journeying with Joseph series. This week we're not going to read all of Genesis 46. We're going to read just a part of it. Today it's Genesis 46 verses 1 to 27. That's still quite a chunk though, so I won't be reading it to you on this video. So again, why don't you hit pause? That's Genesis 46, verses 1 to 27. Why don't you have a read of that first and then come back and just hear some thoughts on it after that? So here we are, Genesis 46. The next chapter of Jacob, Israel's journey, begins with him going with family. And when I say family, I mean all the family to Egypt to be reunited with Joseph. Jacob would have been going through a range of emotions. He wasn't young. He was someone who knew he was near his death. This was not a simple journey. Jacob knew he had every chance of dying before he even made it to Egypt. It was a difficult journey. It was a treacherous journey for someone to take who was this elderly at this point in time. Don't forget, this was also a time of serious famine, and they were taking everyone and everything that they had with them. This means that they, as a moving party, would have been prime targets on the road for people who were desperate because of the famine. This was not a simple journey for the elderly Jacob. And then there is all the emotional baggage that comes from the fact that he's getting to see Joseph again, the son he has grieved all of these years. There would have been a lot of anxiety for Jacob on this journey. And so en route, they go to Beersheba. And now Beersheba is not just another place in the Bible, but Beersheba is steeped in God history. Beersheba was the place where God spoke to Jacob's granddad, Abraham. Beersheba was this place where God spoke to Jacob's dad, Isaac. This was a place that God had chosen to speak to Jacob's family and reassure them and fulfill and give them promises for their lives, time and time again. Jacob needed a word and reassurance from God. And in that place where God met his ancestors, God did not let Jacob down. God met him. God reassured him. God repeated the promises that he made to his family. God reassured Jacob that he would see Joseph before he died. In other words, he would live through the journey. Jacob had already started the journey, but he was anxious. He needed that peace and the reassurance of God, hence the stop at Beersheba. He could have sought God for this reassurance before he left, but he didn't. He started the journey first. Sometimes I think that we want the reassurances of God before we're willing to step out. But time and time again in the Bible, I read moments like this, moments where people step out first, and then once that step's been made, then comes the reassurances of God. Are you waiting for reassurance before you step out? You might be waiting a little longer than you should be. Maybe, like Jacob, we should step out and then cry out to God like Jacob and say, "Here I am." And then, once you've stepped out and cried out, then you might receive the reassurance you need. And then Jacob and the whole family make the journey. Now, not a lot else happens in this segment of the Bible, but I was drawn to something in particular. We're told in verse 6 that Jacob didn't only take all of his family, but all of the stuff he'd accumulated in Canaan as well, all of his livestock. What did Pharaoh say in Genesis 45? He said, "You don't need to bring any of your stuff like livestock." He was told, you don't need to bring anything, that the Egyptians will make sure that they're provided for. In other words, Pharaoh said, leave your Canaan baggage at home and just come. I will make sure you're cared for. And yet, here Jacob and his family are bringing their Canaan baggage. When we start a new chapter, it's very easy to change nothing and simply take all that was in the old chapter into the new one. We can even be told to leave our baggage behind because it will make the next chapter easier. traveling with all that livestock from Canaan would have made the travel and the journey more difficult. But Jacob just couldn't let go of it. He was told to let go of it. He was told he didn't need it. And yet, along it came anyway. How much baggage do we drag into new situations knowing that we don't need it? How much baggage do we drag into new situations knowing it's going to make things actually more difficult? God doesn't want us dragging around unnecessary baggage. He wants you to trust Him. He wants you to trust Him with your baggage and to step out without it. Are we going to be a people willing to deal with our baggage and leave it with God because we don't need it? Or are we going to be like Jacob and unnecessarily dragging it round with us everywhere?